After slashing his way through the woods, dying, coming back from the grave, taking a cruise ship to Manhattan, jumping into people's bodies, and flying to outer space, the Friday the 13th series had all but run its course. But in the years between Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X, New Line and series creator Sean Cunningham were in negotiations to pit their masked slasher against one of Hollywood's A-list psychopaths, Freddy Krueger. It seemed like a match made in hell, because New Line had since acquired the Jason character from Paramount, and so you wouldn't think it would be too difficult to make a Freddy vs. Jason, and make it entertaining as hell. For whatever reason, though, this proved to be an unwieldy task for all parties, and so the project faced another type of hell. Development hell. I guess no one could quite figure out how to cross over both franchises, but seriously, when you look at the origins of both characters, was it really that hard? Jason drowned as a boy and then spent his career seeking revenge for his mother's death, and Freddy was a burn victim seeking to avenge his demise by killing all the kids of Elm Street in their dreams. What was the problem? Well, apparently there were several scripts, a slew of directors, and tons of negotiating. You would have thought it was the world of Star Wars colliding with the world of Star Trek. I mean, both series have their followings, but why did it take so long for this film to get made? This was a movie that, for all intents and purposes, I would have loved to see in the early 90s, especially given the abstract nature of Jason Goes to Hell. The project took so long getting made that in order to pass the time, Sean Cunningham decided to greenlight another Jason project, which became Jason X. I believe they set it in the future so that it would have no immediate place in the timeline, interfering with the aforementioned Freddy vs. Jason film, assuming it ever got made. There were reports of several scripts floating around online. One that I read featured Steven and Jessica from Jason Goes to Hell, and Alice and her son Jacob from Nightmare 5. It was profound to see these characters together in one story, but the story itself dealt with Christian mythology, the dagger that pierced Christ, and the battle of two very vague evils. Aside from the odd character choice, the movie was missing two crucial ingredients: Freddy and Jason. Let me stress, the fans didn't want an obscure, meaningful Christian mythology movie where Freddy and Jason are represented by vague metaphors. That sounds like a movie for the Exorcist nuts. Freddy vs. Jason should be, first and foremost, about these two monster celebrities kicking the snot out of each other. The name itself screams mindless brain fodder. And in the summer of 2003, the movie, much to my surprise, actually came out. It was bittersweet to finally go see it. I was a little hyped, but I really didn't expect much. After all, what movie made over the course of 10 years ever lived up to the hype? Was the movie worth the 10-year wait? No. This is a movie that could have come out right after Jason Goes to Hell, and in all honesty, as well as it did, it probably could have done twice the business because in the mid-90s, both series were still pretty fresh. Even the last image in Jason Goes to Hell shows Freddy's glove coming up from the ground to snatch Jason's mask, perfectly setting up the film. This image was what started fans' passionate fire regarding the film. Again, I ask, why did it take so long? But I have to say, as much bitching as it sounds like I'm doing, I'll give it this. It's as entertaining a film as you'd think. It pays homage to both franchises equally, pleasing both sets of fans, and giving us all what we wanted. An exceptionally bloody and drawn-out battle between two crossover characters. They even did a decent job of crossing over the franchises. Sure, you're inevitably going to have a few flaws. For instance, how close is Crystal Lake to Springwood, and how does Jason know how to get there? But who cares, it's Freddy vs. Jason. The movie starts traditionally enough, with a stupid teenager skinny dipping just in time for Jason to show up and slash her to pieces. We find out that Jason's actually having his own nightmare, in which his mother comes to him and tells him to start killing kids who live in Springwood. A lot of fans gripe that Betsy Palmer, Mrs. Voorhees in the original film, didn't reprise her role. It would have been nice, but come on, it's Freddy vs. Jason! As it turns out, the new generation of Elm Street kids have all but forgotten about Freddy. The reason for this, while far-fetched, is pretty intriguing. All of Freddy's past victims, the survivors that is, have been shipped away to the mental hospital, their dreams suppressed thanks to heavy doses of Hypnocil. This makes sense because the same drug was being experimented with in Nightmare 3, so it's nice to see the filmmakers actually bring in elements from past films. Because these survivors are locked away from the community, the current Elm Street kids have no recollection of Freddy. Freddy sends Jason to Elm Street to bring back their sense of fear. The kids all start having nightmares again, allowing Freddy to invade their dreams and continue his killing spree. The main characters are interesting enough, but they're all pretty stock. Laurie is the troubled youth whose mom was killed by Freddy. She has a past love, Will, who is locked away at the mental hospital. Kia is the aspiring fashion model.
Got your nose!
Linderman is the geek trying to get the girl. Gibbs the slut.
What do you see in him? I don't know. But he has a cute ass.
And Freeberg is a Jason Mewes look-alike. They all look like throwaway characters from the latest teen drama, but they're actually not bad when comparing the casts of some of the other films. Aside from all that, there's not much else aside from some pretty awesome death sequences. Unfortunately, there's a little more CGI than there really needs to be, but come on, it's Freddy vs. Jason! Robert Englund again reprises his role as Freddy Krueger, and he's as wisecracking as ever.
It's my fault this bitch is dead on her feet.
Jason, however, is played by stuntman Ken Kirzinger, which surprisingly upset a lot of fans. Even Kane Hodder was reportedly upset that he wasn't given the opportunity to fight Freddy. Kirzinger isn't bad, and he's definitely the right size, but somehow he lacks that aggressive edge that Hodder gave the character in the past 4 Jason films. It seems that director Ronnie Yu, yes, the same guy who directed Bride of Chucky, was going for a more sympathetic character for Jason, trying to make it seem as though Freddy is pulling his strings.
Not strong enough yet. Well, I will be soon enough. Until then, I'll let Jason have some fun.
It's a neat idea, but ultimately I would have liked to see that demonic edge. This film definitely calls for it. On top of that, they really screwed up Jason's history. Apparently, according to this movie, Freddy is afraid of fire, and Jason, get this, is afraid of water. The Freddy factoid is legitimate, but let's take a look at the past Jason films.
You're with your baby, and you're parked alone.
He doesn't really seem to have a problem with water. Since the film came out, the screenwriters tried clearing this up, saying that originally he was supposed to be afraid of drowning. Fine, but explain this. People who are afraid of drowning typically don't go near water, so your logic again makes no sense. The only other thing I have to comment on is the actual fight. After all, this movie is called Freddy vs. Jason, and to my surprise, it's actually done really well. I mean, these guys go at it. The gore level is pretty ridiculous, more than making up for the lacking violence in Jason X. I especially like how the fight starts in Freddy's dream world and then ends up on the shores of Crystal Lake, so they do a good job demonstrating each character's strengths and weaknesses. This one is just pure fun. It isn't typically scary, but they didn't shy away from the gore, and they give us one hell of a show. It has the perfect blend of horror and humor, and even though the characters are all stock, I'd be lying if I didn't say they're pretty likable.
Hypnosil. What does this shit do, anyway? How come we all have to take it?
Keeps you nice and docile while I kick your little ass.
I'm fine with that. Kurt? How many times do I have to tell you, man? I don't do checkers. I'm an Uno guy, all right? So go grab the fucking Uno deck and we'll play. We gotta go! Now! Come on!
Let me handle this, bitch.
Now, some people try to debate whether this is more of one movie than the other. Is it more a Jason movie or more a Freddy movie? I think they try to do this just to determine what part of their DVD collection to place it. But honestly, it does a really good job doing both franchises justice. It's meant to be a standalone film, but it's also a sequel to both. It all goes back to the old Universal movies, like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. They were simply trying to appeal to both audiences, and the challenge is making it work. And right up to the film's very last shot, they do just that. Obviously, Freddy fans are going to feel that Freddy won, while Jason fans are going to feel that Jason won. And having said that, the film did what it essentially set out to do. I just have one question. It is a good movie, but why the hell did it take so long?
Hey, asshole! Up here!